Sharks are the ocean's most misunderstood monsters. Ancient, calculating, and always just beneath the surface. With senses tuned to blood, movement, and electrical pulses, they don't hunt out of malice, but instinct. Yet when human lives intersect with their hunting grounds, the results can be catastrophic. From serene beaches to classified military dives, sharks have struck without warning, turning ordinary moments into unforgettable nightmares. These are not myths. They're real, raw, and often tragic. In this video, we uncover 6 jaw-dropping shark attacks that rattled the world. The fishing vessel Neptuna's Pride rocked gently in the choppy waters 15 nautical miles off the coast of Gansbaai, South Africa in March 2019. This stretch of ocean, known locally as Shark Alley, had earned its ominous nickname through decades of great white shark sightings and the occasional tragic encounter. The area served as a natural hunting ground where the cold Benguela current met warmer waters, creating an ecosystem rich with seals, tuna, and other marine life that attracted the ocean's apex predators. Captain Hendrik Fourie had been working these waters for over 30 years, and his weathered hands knew every current and tide pattern along the Western Cape. His crew of 4 experienced fishermen had set their long lines before dawn, hoping to catch yellowfin tuna for the Cape Town markets. The morning had started like any other, with the crew methodically hauling in their catch while seabirds circled overhead, diving for scraps. Around 11 in the morning, something unusual caught the attention of deckhand Peter Vandenberg. One of their lines showed signs of an enormous struggle, with the thick braided cable stretched taut and vibrating under tremendous pressure. The hydraulic winch groaned as it fought against whatever had taken their bait, and Fourie immediately knew they had hooked something far larger than their intended catch. As the crew worked together to bring in the line, a massive shadow began to emerge from the dark depths below. What surfaced alongside their boat was a great white of staggering proportions, easily one of the largest anyone on board had ever seen. The creature was clearly dead, having fought the hooks and lines until exhaustion claimed it. Its massive bulk created a strange bulge along its midsection, prompting Fourie to call for backup before moving forward. The crew managed to secure the shark alongside their vessel using heavy chains and ropes. Maritime protocol required them to document such catches, particularly given the protected status of great white sharks in South African waters. However, as they prepared to release the animal back into the ocean, the abnormal swelling in its stomach region raised concerns among the experienced fishermen. Fourie made the difficult decision to perform a necropsy, primarily to determine what might have caused the shark's death and the unusual bulge. Using their largest filleting knives, the crew carefully opened the shark's stomach cavity. What they discovered would haunt them for the remainder of their lives and send shockwaves through the coastal communities of the Western Cape. Inside the shark's stomach, they found the remains of 2 human beings. The bodies, though severely damaged by digestive acids, were identifiable as 2 young women. Personal effects found with the remains included waterproof jewelry and remnants of swimwear that had somehow survived the shark's powerful digestive system. The crew immediately contacted local authorities and environmental officials. Within hours, a team of marine biologists arrived by helicopter, accompanied by forensic specialists from the regional government. The recovery operation was carried out under strict scientific protocols, with every piece of evidence meticulously documented and preserved. Dr. Marina Kotzenberg, a leading marine biologist specializing in great white behavior, explained to investigators that such incidents, while extremely rare, were not entirely unprecedented in these waters. The area around Gansbaai had experienced increased great white activity in recent months, coinciding with the annual seal pupping season at nearby Dyer Island. The forensic investigation that followed revealed the victims to be Anastasia Volkov and Katerina Petrov, 2 Russian tourists who had been reported missing by their hotel the previous day. The women, both in their early 20s, had been staying at a guest house in Hermanus and had decided to go swimming at a secluded beach known for its seal colony, despite warnings from locals about the dangers during pupping season. Witnesses from the nearby beach later reported seeing the women enter the water around sunset, a time when great whites typically hunt in the shallows. The attack, according to marine biologists, would have been swift and fatal. Great white sharks approaching prey from below can generate enormous force, often killing their victims instantly through massive trauma before dragging them to deeper waters. The investigation revealed that the women had ignored posted warning signs about shark activity and had chosen to swim in an area specifically known for recent shark sightings. Local authorities had issued advisories just days before, recommending against water activities in the immediate vicinity due to increased predator presence. Following the discovery, the Western Cape provincial government immediately closed a 15-kilometer stretch of coastline to all water activities. Additional shark spotters were deployed to popular beaches, and helicopter patrols were increased along the coast. The local tourism industry, heavily dependent on beach activities and marine tours, faced significant challenges as news of the incident spread internationally. The tragic event served as a stark reminder of the inherent dangers present in South African waters, where great white sharks are both a crucial part of the marine ecosystem and an ever-present threat to human activities. Marine biologists emphasized that such attacks remain statistically rare, but the proximity of seal colonies to popular swimming areas creates unavoidable risks. The incident prompted renewed discussions about beach safety protocols and the effectiveness of shark nets and other protective measures. The bodies were eventually repatriated to Russia, while the massive great white shark was donated to the government's Museum for Scientific Study, contributing valuable data to ongoing research into the behavior and biology of these apex predators. In September 2017, the crystal-clear waters of a strategic Pacific military outpost shimmered under the sun, concealing the technological secrets lying 30 feet below the surface. This remote installation, located in the heart of Micronesia, had served as a critical forward operating base since World War II. The surrounding coral reefs, though stunning in their natural beauty, were home to apex predators that had ruled these waters for millions of years, among them, the formidable tiger shark. Petty Officer Mark Davis, a 28-year-old Navy diver from Ohio, had completed over 200 successful underwater operations during his 6-year military career. His specialty involved the retrieval and maintenance of classified underwater surveillance equipment, a role that required both technical expertise and nerves of steel. On this particular morning, Davis was tasked with recovering an experimental drone that had malfunctioned during routine patrol operations near the outer reef system. The mission briefing had been straightforward. The unmanned underwater vehicle, worth several $1 million and containing sensitive sonar technology, had gone offline approximately 18 hours earlier. Its last known position placed it near a coral formation known to local divers as Cathedral Rock, named for its towering spires and hidden grottos that created an underwater maze of shadows and crevices. Davis descended through the warm tropical waters alongside his dive partner, Seaman Rodriguez, their equipment checks complete and communication systems functioning perfectly. The visibility was exceptional, extending nearly 100 feet in all directions, which should have made the retrieval operation routine. Military protocols required all underwater operations to be conducted in pairs, a safety measure that would prove crucial in the events that followed. As they approached the target coordinates, Davis spotted the disabled drone wedged between two massive coral heads approximately 25 feet below the surface. The device appeared intact, its sleek metallic hull reflecting the filtered sunlight that penetrated the depths. What neither diver realized was that the drone's erratic movements during its malfunction had attracted the attention of a curious 14-foot tiger shark that had been patrolling the reef system. Davis maneuvered carefully through the coral formation, his breathing apparatus creating a steady stream of bubbles that rose toward the surface. The drone was positioned in a narrow channel between the coral structures, requiring precise movement to avoid damaging either the equipment or the fragile marine ecosystem. As he reached for the recovery handle, the massive predator emerged from the shadows behind him. Tiger sharks, known for their opportunistic hunting behavior and powerful jaws, are among the most dangerous species in tropical waters. This particular specimen, a mature female, had been drawn by the unusual sounds and movements emanating from the disabled drone. The electromagnetic signatures from the device's failing systems had triggered her natural curiosity, a trait that makes tiger sharks both effective hunters and unpredictable threats to humans. The attack came without warning. The shark lunged forward with explosive speed, her massive jaws clamping down on Davis's right forearm with crushing force. The impact drove both man and shark deeper into the coral crevice, creating a cloud of debris and blood that instantly reduced visibility to near zero. Davis felt the razor-sharp teeth penetrate his wetsuit and flesh, the pressure threatening to snap his bones. Rodriguez reacted immediately upon witnessing the attack. Following emergency protocols, he grabbed a metal pry bar from his equipment belt and struck the shark repeatedly on her sensitive snout and gills. The impacts, while not causing serious injury to the predator, created enough irritation to alter her behavior. Simultaneously, Davis fought to remain conscious while attempting to pry open the shark's jaws with his free hand. The struggle lasted nearly 2 minutes, though it felt like hours to the trapped diver. Davis later reported that his training kicked in automatically, preventing panic from overwhelming his survival instincts. He managed to locate a pressure point behind the shark's jaw and applied force while Rodriguez continued his assault on the animal's head and gills. The tiger shark finally released her grip and retreated into the deeper waters beyond the reef, leaving Davis bleeding but alive. Rodriguez immediately initiated emergency ascent procedures, supporting his injured partner while carefully managing their decompression stops to prevent diving sickness. The ascent took nearly 10 minutes, during which Davis fought to maintain consciousness despite significant blood loss. Surface support teams had been monitoring the dive through underwater communication systems and were prepared for medical evacuation. Davis was rushed to the base hospital, where military surgeons worked for 6 hours to repair the extensive damage to his forearm. The shark's teeth had created deep puncture wounds and lacerations, but miraculously had not severed any major arteries or broken bones. The incident prompted an immediate review of Navy diving protocols in tropical waters known to harbor large predators. Marine biologists attached to the base concluded that the drone's electromagnetic emissions had likely attracted the shark, creating an unusual set of circumstances that led to the attack. New procedures were implemented requiring electromagnetic shielding for all underwater equipment operations. Davis recovered fully from his injuries and returned to active duty 6 months later, though he bore permanent scars from his encounter with one of the ocean's most formidable predators. The experimental drone was eventually recovered using robotic systems, its data proving valuable to ongoing military research despite the dramatic circumstances surrounding its retrieval. The waters surrounding Seal Island near Cape Town had witnessed countless encounters between humans and great white sharks since documentary filmmakers first began capturing footage of these apex predators in the 1990s. In April 2015, this small rocky outcrop, barely 200 meters long, continued to serve as one of the world's premier locations for shark research and filming. The island's massive seal colony, numbering over 60,000 individuals, created an irresistible hunting ground for great whites during the winter months when seals were most vulnerable. James Porter, a 34-year-old underwater cinematographer from California, had spent the better part of a decade filming marine predators in some of the world's most dangerous waters. His portfolio included collaborations with several major international documentary networks, making him one of the most sought-after specialists in his field. Porter's reputation for capturing stunning footage while maintaining strict safety protocols had earned him the respect of both colleagues and the marine biology community. The documentary project that brought Porter to South African waters was an ambitious attempt to film great white hunting behavior during the peak of seal pupping season. The production team, consisting of 8 crew members and 2 marine biologists, had been working from a specially modified research vessel for nearly 3 weeks. Their goal was to capture never-before-seen footage of great white sharks breaching the surface while attacking seals, a behavior that had only recently been documented by scientists. On the morning of the incident, sea conditions were ideal for filming. The ocean surface remained relatively calm, with visibility extending to nearly 40 feet underwater. Porter and his diving team had completed 6 successful filming sessions over the previous week, accumulating hours of spectacular footage showing great whites in their natural hunting environment. The sharks in this area had grown accustomed to the presence of research vessels, often displaying curiosity rather than aggression toward human observers. Porter entered the water wearing a full protection suit designed specifically for shark encounters. The Kevlar-reinforced wetsuit provided some protection against bites, though its effectiveness against a full-sized great white remained largely theoretical. His filming equipment included a custom-built underwater camera housing and professional lighting equipment necessary for capturing high-quality footage in the challenging underwater conditions. The plan called for Porter to position himself near a predetermined filming location approximately 50 meters from Seal Island. Surface support teams maintained constant visual contact while monitoring underwater communications. Marine biologists aboard the vessel tracked several tagged great whites in the immediate area using acoustic monitoring equipment, providing real-time updates on shark movements and behavior patterns. Everything proceeded according to plan for the first 20 minutes of the dive. Porter successfully captured footage of several smaller sharks patrolling the area, along with spectacular scenes of seals navigating through the kelp forests that surrounded the island. The underwater visibility allowed him to maintain situational awareness while focusing on his cinematography, a crucial skill when working in predator-inhabited waters. The attack occurred with the sudden violence that characterizes great white hunting behavior. A 16-foot female shark, likely attracted by the electromagnetic signatures from Porter's equipment, approached from below and behind, exploiting the cinematographer's natural blind spot. The predator struck with tremendous force, her massive jaws clamping down on Porter's right shoulder and upper arm. The impact drove Porter several feet through the water, his camera equipment torn from his grasp as the shark began the characteristic rolling motion that great whites use to disorient prey. Porter later described the sensation as being caught in a hydraulic press operated by an earthquake, with crushing pressure accompanied by the grinding sound of teeth against Kevlar and bone. His support team reacted immediately upon witnessing the attack. Safety divers Jake Morrison and Lisa Chen descended rapidly, carrying emergency equipment including shark deterrent devices and medical supplies. Morrison struck the shark repeatedly with a metal rod while Chen activated an underwater strobe light designed to disorient predators. The combined assault on the shark's sensory organs created enough confusion to interrupt her attack sequence. After nearly 45 seconds, the great white released Porter and retreated toward deeper water. The cinematographer, bleeding heavily and barely conscious, was immediately brought to the surface by his rescue team. Emergency medical protocols were initiated aboard the research vessel while the crew prepared for emergency evacuation to Cape Town's trauma center. Porter had suffered extensive injuries to his right shoulder, with the shark's teeth creating deep puncture wounds and fracturing his collarbone. The Kevlar protection suit had prevented even more serious damage, likely saving his life by distributing some of the bite force across a larger area. Military medics aboard the vessel worked to stabilize his condition during the helicopter evacuation to shore. The incident required multiple surgical procedures to repair damaged tissue and reconstruct Porter's shoulder joint. Despite the severity of his injuries, he retained full use of his arm and returned to underwater filming 18 months later. The attack footage, captured by surface cameras, provided valuable scientific data about great white behavior and hunting techniques. The documentary was eventually completed using existing footage, though Porter's near-fatal encounter became an integral part of the final production. Marine biologists studying the incident concluded that the shark had likely mistaken Porter for a seal, particularly given his position near the island and the electromagnetic interference from his equipment. The Sunshine Coast of Queensland, Australia, had long been recognized as one of the most dangerous stretches of water for shark encounters in the southern hemisphere. In January 2012, the area around Caloundra and Mooloolaba beaches experienced a particularly active summer season, with bull sharks venturing into shallow waters to hunt in the murky coastal zones where rivers met the Pacific Ocean. These prehistoric predators, known for their aggressive nature and ability to survive in both salt and fresh water, had claimed several victims along the Australian coast over the decades. Kayla Monroe, a 23-year-old social media influencer from Brisbane, had built a following of nearly 500,000 subscribers through increasingly dangerous stunts and challenges. Her content focused primarily on extreme sports and wildlife encounters, often performed in locations where common sense would dictate extreme caution. Monroe's philosophy centered on the belief that viral fame justified almost any risk, a mindset that had already resulted in several close calls with venomous snakes and crocodiles in previous videos. The bull shark feeding stunt that would ultimately cost Monroe her life had been planned for weeks as part of a collaboration with several other influencers seeking to create content that would generate millions of views. The location they selected was a shallow bay near Bribie Island, known locally for its bull shark population and murky waters that provided perfect hunting conditions for these apex predators. Local authorities had issued warnings about increased shark activity in the area following several recent sightings, but Monroe and her friends dismissed these concerns as overly cautious. Monroe arrived at the location with a group of 6 friends, all of whom served as her filming crew and witnesses to the stunt. The plan involved her wading into waist-deep water while holding chunks of raw fish, attempting to hand-feed any sharks that approached. The concept had been inspired by similar videos featuring less dangerous marine life. But Monroe's desire for increasingly extreme content had led her to target one of the ocean's most unpredictable predators. The water conditions on the day of the stunt were particularly hazardous. Recent rainfall had created significant runoff from nearby rivers, reducing visibility to less than 3 feet and creating the perfect environment for bull shark hunting. These conditions, combined with the presence of bait fish in the area, had attracted several large predators to the shallow waters where Monroe planned to perform her stunt. Despite warnings from local fishermen who witnessed her preparations, Monroe proceeded with her plan. She entered the water wearing only a bikini and carrying a plastic bag filled with fresh fish pieces. Her friends positioned themselves on the beach with multiple cameras, capturing every moment of what they expected to be another successful viral video. None of them possessed any experience with marine predators or understood the genuine danger they were documenting. The attack occurred within minutes of Monroe entering the water. A mature bull shark, measuring approximately 9 feet in length, had been attracted by the scent of blood and fish oil spreading through the water. Bull sharks are known for their aggressive hunting style and their tendency to attack first and investigate later, a characteristic that makes them particularly dangerous to humans in shallow water environments. The shark struck Monroe's right thigh with tremendous force, its powerful jaws designed to crush turtle shells and large fish bones. The impact knocked her off her feet and into deeper water, where the predator's natural advantage became overwhelming. Monroe's friends on the beach watched in horror as she disappeared beneath the surface, the water around her turning red with blood. 2 of her friends, Jackson Wade and Christina Palmer, immediately entered the water in an attempt to rescue Monroe, but the murky conditions and the presence of an agitated predator made their efforts futile. Wade later reported that he could hear Monroe screaming beneath the surface, but was unable to locate her in the turbid water. The shark's thrashing movements had created a cloud of sand and debris that reduced visibility to nearly zero. Emergency services arrived within 20 minutes of the initial attack, but their search efforts were hampered by the same conditions that had made the location dangerous in the first place. Surf lifesavers and volunteer rescue teams scoured the area using boats and helicopters, but Monroe's body was not recovered until the following morning when it washed ashore nearly 2 kilometers from the attack site. The autopsy revealed that Monroe had suffered massive trauma to her right leg and abdomen, with blood loss being the primary cause of death. The severity of her injuries indicated that the bull shark had continued its attack even after dragging her underwater, behavior consistent with this species' reputation for persistent aggression. Marine biologists examining the case noted that the feeding behavior Monroe had attempted to encourage had likely triggered the shark's predatory instincts. The tragic incident sparked widespread discussion about the responsibilities of social media influencers and the dangerous lengths some individuals would go to achieve viral fame. Monroe's death became a cautionary tale shared across multiple platforms, with her own followers expressing shock and regret at having encouraged her increasingly risky behavior through likes and comments. Queensland authorities used the incident to reinforce existing warnings about shark safety and the particular dangers posed by bull sharks in shallow, murky waters. The location where Monroe died was temporarily closed to swimmers, and additional warning signs were installed along the coastline to prevent similar tragedies. The pristine waters of False Bay, stretching along the eastern shores of Cape Town, South Africa, had served as both a playground for tourists and a hunting ground for great white sharks for countless generations. In February 2008, The bay's reputation as one of the world's premier shark research locations was well established, with marine biologists from around the globe conducting studies on the apex predators that frequented these nutrient-rich waters. The area's unique geography, where warm Indian Ocean currents met colder Atlantic waters, created an ecosystem that supported both abundant marine life and the tourists who flocked to experience South Africa's coastal beauty. Sarah Collins, a 28-year-old marketing executive from Manchester, England, had planned her South African vacation for over a year. The 2-week trip represented her first major holiday following a difficult divorce, and she was determined to experience every adventure the Western Cape had to offer. Her itinerary included wine tours, safari expeditions, and various water sports activities, all designed to help her rediscover her sense of adventure and independence. The banana boat excursion had been recommended by her hotel concierge as a fun, relatively safe way to experience the bay's crystal-clear waters. The activity, popular among tourists seeking mild thrills without the complexity of scuba diving or surfing, involved groups of 6 to 8 people riding an inflatable boat, towed behind a speedboat. The tour operator, Marine Adventures, had been conducting these excursions for over 15 years, without any serious incidents involving marine life. Collins joined 5 other tourists for the afternoon adventure, including 2 Australian couples and a solo traveler from Germany. The group was led by boat captain Ravi Patel, a 35-year-old local who had grown up in the area and possessed extensive knowledge of the bay's conditions and wildlife. Patel conducted his standard safety briefing, explaining proper positioning on the banana boat and what to do if someone fell into the water, though he made no specific mention of sharks. The excursion began at a popular coastal spot known for its colorful beach huts and beginner-friendly surf. The banana boat, a bright yellow inflatable craft shaped like its namesake fruit, was built to carry 8 passengers seated in a row. Collins positioned herself near the front, eager to feel the full thrill of the ride as it bounced across the bay's moderate swells. For the first 30 minutes, the ride proceeded exactly as advertised. The speedboat towed the banana boat in wide circles and figure-8 patterns, creating enough turbulence to splash the passengers while maintaining complete safety. The group laughed and screamed with delight as they bounced across the waves, with Collins later describing the experience as exactly the kind of carefree fun she had been seeking. The attack occurred during what should have been a routine turn near the deeper waters of the bay. A juvenile great white shark measuring approximately 12 feet in length had been hunting in the area and was likely attracted by the unusual sounds and vibrations created by the banana boat's movement through the water. Juvenile great whites are known to be particularly curious about unfamiliar objects, often investigating potential prey items through exploratory bites. The shark approached from below and behind the banana boat, following its natural hunting instincts. As the inflatable craft passed overhead, the predator lunged upward with explosive force, its massive jaws breaking the surface of the water and clamping down on Collins's left leg just below the knee. The impact was so sudden and violent that the other passengers initially thought the boat had struck a submerged object. Collins screamed in pain and terror as the shark's teeth penetrated her wetsuit and flesh, creating deep puncture wounds that immediately began bleeding profusely. The predator maintained its grip for several seconds, its weight and thrashing movements threatening to pull Collins from the banana boat and into the water, where the attack could have proven fatal. Captain Patel reacted immediately upon realizing what was happening. He quickly maneuvered the speedboat to reduce tension on the tow rope, while shouting instructions to the other passengers to help support Collins. The German tourist, Klaus Weber, grabbed Collins around the waist and pulled her toward the center of the banana boat, while the Australian couple worked to stabilize the inflatable craft. The shark released its grip after approximately 10 seconds, likely discouraged by the unusual texture and taste of the wetsuit material and the continued movement of its target. The predator disappeared back into the depths, leaving Collins injured but alive, supported by her fellow passengers as Captain Patel initiated emergency procedures. The journey back to shore took nearly 15 minutes, during which Collins remained conscious but in severe pain. Her fellow passengers used towels and clothing to create makeshift bandages, applying pressure to the wounds to control bleeding. Patel radioed ahead to emergency services, ensuring that paramedics and medical personnel would be waiting at the harbor. Collins was immediately transported to a trauma center, where surgeons worked to clean and repair the puncture wounds in her leg. The shark's teeth had created 8 distinct puncture marks, but had not severed any major arteries or broken bones. The thickness of her wetsuit had likely prevented more serious damage, distributing some of the bite force across a larger area. The incident made international headlines, particularly in the United Kingdom, where Collins's story was featured in major newspapers and television programs. Marine biologists who studied the attack concluded that it was likely a case of mistaken identity, with the juvenile shark investigating what it perceived as a potential prey item rather than launching a deliberate attack on a human. Collins recovered fully from her injuries within 3 months, though she bore permanent scars from her encounter with one of the ocean's most formidable predators. She later became an advocate for shark conservation, using her experience to educate others about the importance of protecting these apex predators while respecting their natural habitat. The murky waters of Barataria Bay, Louisiana, had concealed countless secrets since the early 19th century, when pirate Jean Lafitte used these labyrinthine waterways as his base of operations. In August 2013, the bay's reputation as a treasure hunter's paradise continued to attract amateur archaeologists and adventure seekers hoping to discover remnants of Civil War battles and pirate hordes. The area's unique geography, where the Mississippi River Delta created a maze of shallow channels and marsh islands, provided perfect hiding places for historical artifacts, while also serving as an ideal habitat for bull sharks. Paul Mason, a 41-year-old construction worker from New Orleans, had spent his weekends for the past 5 years searching for Civil War relics throughout southern Louisiana. His passion for metal detecting and underwater archaeology had led him to discover several minor artifacts, including belt buckles, bullets, and pieces of military equipment that had been lost during the chaotic final years of the war. Mason's ultimate goal was to locate the remains of a Confederate supply vessel that had reportedly sunk near Barataria Bay in 1864. The treasure hunting expedition that nearly cost Mason his life had been organized by a group of 12 amateur archaeologists who pooled their resources to fund more ambitious searches. The society had obtained permission from state authorities to conduct a limited archaeological survey in waters where historical records suggested the presence of Civil War-era materials. The location they selected was a shallow channel where local fishermen had occasionally snagged metal objects in their nets. Historical records indicated that the Confederate vessel CSS Beauregard had been scuttled in these waters during Union advances in late 1864. The ship had reportedly been carrying supplies and weapons to Confederate forces operating in the region when it came under attack from Union gunboats. Rather than allow the cargo to fall into enemy hands, the crew had deliberately sunk their vessel in the shallow waters of Barataria Bay, where the wreckage would be difficult to locate and salvage. Mason had spent months researching the historical accounts, cross-referencing military records with local folklore and fishermen's reports of unusual underwater obstacles. His methodical approach to treasure hunting combined historical research with modern technology, using global positioning system coordinates and sonar mapping to identify potential search areas. The brass compass discovery represented the culmination of years of patient investigation and represented concrete evidence that they were searching in the correct location. Working under strict archaeological protocols, the group documented every discovery with photographs and global positioning system coordinates before carefully recovering artifacts from their underwater resting places. Their mission extended beyond collecting valuable items. They aimed to enhance the historical understanding of Civil War activity in southern Louisiana. Detailed records of all findings were maintained and shared with professional archaeologists and regional museums. Mason's diving partner for the expedition was Raymond Thibodeau, a 53-year-old retired oil rig worker who possessed extensive experience in Louisiana's coastal waters. The pair had worked together on numerous previous expeditions, developing a system of underwater communication and safety protocols that had served them well in the challenging conditions of the Gulf Coast region. The water conditions in Barataria Bay presented significant challenges for underwater archaeology. The constant flow of sediment from the Mississippi River created visibility of less than 18 inches, forcing divers to work primarily by touch rather than sight. The bay's brackish water, where fresh river water mixed with salt water from the Gulf of Mexico, created an ideal environment for bull sharks, which are uniquely adapted to survive in both fresh and saltwater conditions. These environmental conditions also made the bay a natural repository for historical artifacts. The soft sediment bottom had preserved metal objects for over a century, protecting them from the corrosive effects of pure saltwater, while the low oxygen environment prevented rapid deterioration. However, the same conditions that preserved historical materials also created perfect hunting grounds for bull sharks, which preferred the murky waters where they could ambush prey with devastating effectiveness. Marine biologists studying bull shark populations in Louisiana coastal waters had documented increasing numbers of these predators in recent years. Climate change and coastal erosion had altered traditional hunting patterns, forcing sharks to explore new territories as their natural habitat changed. The Mississippi River Delta's unique ecosystem supported large populations of fish and marine mammals that attracted bull sharks from throughout the Gulf of Mexico region. Mason and Thibodeau entered the water early in the morning, when tidal conditions were most favorable for their search. They had divided their target area into a grid pattern, systematically searching each section with metal detectors and carefully excavating any promising signals. The work was slow and methodical, requiring patience and attention to detail to avoid damaging potentially valuable historical artifacts. After nearly 3 hours of searching, Mason's metal detector registered a strong signal in approximately 8 feet of water. Careful excavation revealed what appeared to be a brass compass, heavily corroded but still intact. The artifact's design and construction suggested it was indeed from the Civil War era, representing exactly the type of discovery that had motivated Mason to pursue underwater archaeology. As Mason surfaced to show his find to Thibodeau and the support team aboard their boat, his excitement and the splashing motion of his ascent attracted the attention of a mature bull shark that had been patrolling the area. Bull sharks are known for their aggressive hunting behavior and their tendency to investigate any unusual activity in their territory, particularly when blood or other scents are present in the water. The shark, measuring approximately 12 feet in length, attacked without warning as Mason treaded water near the surface. The predator's massive jaws clamped down on Mason's torso, just below his ribs, with crushing force that immediately fractured several bones and created deep puncture wounds. The impact drove Mason underwater, where the shark began the violent rolling motion characteristic of its species' feeding behavior. Thibodeau, who had been floating nearby, immediately recognized the signs of a shark attack and swam toward his partner despite the obvious danger to himself. The murky water made visual contact nearly impossible, but he could hear Mason's muffled screams and see the turbulence created by the shark's thrashing movements. Following emergency protocols they had practiced but never expected to use, Thibodeau grabbed a metal pry bar from his equipment belt. The rescue effort took place in near-zero visibility conditions that made the situation even more dangerous. Thibodeau had to locate both Mason and the shark by touch, working frantically to separate them while avoiding the predator's powerful jaws. He struck the shark repeatedly on its snout and gills, the most sensitive areas of its anatomy, while simultaneously attempting to pry apart its jaws. The predator, apparently discouraged by the unexpected resistance, retreated into the deeper waters of the bay. Mason, bleeding heavily and barely conscious, was immediately pulled from the water and given emergency medical treatment by his fellow treasure hunters. The nearest hospital was 30 miles away, requiring a high-speed boat ride followed by ambulance transport. Mason remained conscious throughout the ordeal, though he had lost significant amounts of blood and suffered extensive tissue damage to his torso and abdomen. The shark's teeth had created multiple puncture wounds, but miraculously had not severed any major organs or arteries. Emergency surgery lasted nearly 6 hours, with trauma surgeons working to repair damaged tissue and stop internal bleeding. Mason's survival was attributed to the quick response of his diving partner and the effectiveness of their emergency protocols. The thick neoprene diving suit he wore had also provided some protection, distributing the bite force across a larger area. Mason recovered fully from his injuries after months of physical therapy, though he bore permanent scars from his encounter with one of Louisiana's most dangerous predators. The brass compass he had discovered was eventually authenticated as a genuine Civil War artifact and donated to the State Museum. serving as a reminder of both the historical treasures hidden beneath the state's waters and the very real dangers faced by those who seek to uncover them.